Okay, so Michael Sager is on stage. Do you say Michael Sager? How do they?
In der Schweiz, wo ich her bin, sagt man Michael, Michi, Michu.
Michu.
But in England, they say Michael.
Michael. So this is Michael Sager. Michael, GQ Sommelier of the Year, and just going to present equal parts today. Aperitivo-Konzept, East London. I think also in Germany we are kind of really connected now to aperitivo-style drinks and aperitivo-style concepts, so it's really nice to have you on stage and looking forward to your presentation. If somebody has questions in between the Vortrag, the presentation, Michael allowed us to interrupt him straight away, and we're doing about 30-40 minutes roundabout, and then we also can add some more questions at the end of the presentation. As I said in the first Vortrag, my mobile is on Flugmodus. We do it live and in Farbe with the questions. It's not the Meyer move, okay? So have fun.
Thank you, Sven.
Thanks for being here.
I also want to thank, can you hear me? What's a good volume? Like this, like this, like this? Like, you can hear all? It's not too loud? Okay. I want to thank the Symposium, Felix, Sven, Campari. I'm very grateful to be here. It's a good opportunity to connect also with my roots. Ich könnte auf Schweizerdeutsch reden, das wäre mir vielleicht einfacher. Ich kann auch Hochdeutsch sprechen, aber ich habe mich entschieden, heute auf Englisch zu sprechen, weil vielleicht hat es auch hier Leute, die kein Deutsch sprechen können. Und deswegen machen wir das auf Englisch. So we're going to do everything in English. If you don't understand something, please ask. I can hopefully help. And any questions you have, also ask, please. I decided to start with a brief history maybe of how do you switch off the fact that your phone constantly goes on sleep, because that's the one second, bear with me. You go in settings, display and brightness, switch off auto lock, there you go. Sorry about that. So, I'm going to give you a very brief overview maybe of how I arrived in England, what we are currently, the business at large. So I have a place, it's that one there, it's called Sager & Wilde. The resolution is normally a bit better in the picture, but this looks the way it is right now. The place has been open exactly 10 years. I opened it in 2013, first with a pop-up, but then 2013 properly. The place focuses on fine wine by the glass, meaning, or a natural wine, just all good wine by the glass, a lot, probably 30, 40 wines by the glass, 500 wines by the bottle. We are very well known for charging very affordably. That's been really important to us since we opened. It was also my first business. I opened it when I was 30 years old. And it focused on something I've never worked in. I've never worked as a sommelier. I've opened a wine bar that happened to become idiosyncratic maybe for London's or East London's wine drinking culture, and we managed to be part of a game-changing adventure for London. London was not well known as a wine city, and I now think it's one of the most dynamic wine markets in the world, in my opinion. I'm happy to be challenged, but that's what I think. It's really exciting, a bit like Copenhagen maybe, or Paris, or Brooklyn. LA now is also super interesting, Toronto. They're cool places where the importers, that brings me to the second point. Importing wine is another business I've started during lockdown. I love importing wine. It connects me with the farmers, the producers. After 10 years of running the bar, at the time 8 years, it was lockdown, I was in Paris with my life partner Karina. She has talked here yesterday from Candelaria and Le Marie Celeste. And we were having a baby in 2020, and we were in Paris during the lockdown. And I was worried about this business and my other two businesses. One was a restaurant, which is now closed, and the other one is still open. I was very worried that maybe I'm going to lose all of that, because you never know with the pandemic. And yeah, I did actually lose one. I might have to lose the other one, but one I've lost. It was very bad. But I decided to open an import business, so now we import wine, half female winemakers, half male winemakers. That was a really important paradigm for me to focus on, because if you can make a choice, you should make a good choice. For me, that was important. and all natural wine all over Europe. Georgian, Georgia, wine from Baja California, Mexico, wine from Lanzarote, Tenerife, wine from Pantelleria, which is on level with Tunisia, south of Sicily, wine from really old vineyards, all made with low intervention. That's it. I also have a small mezcal business with my partner Karina. It's called El Destilado. We are trying to really make it a business at some point. It's been a passion. It's been a real big passion project for 6 years now, 7 years. We buy small batches of Destilado, we ship it to London, we bottle it, all made in either artisanal or ancestral ways, non-certified agave spirits. Used to be presented in Germany, not anymore, but we are in Japan, Norway, Sweden, England, France, some markets with it. It's a really beautiful project. So that's where we are now. And then, I've got the next slide. That's who I was. It's really tough to see in that picture. That's a bar show at the time. It was called Rematch Biatch. I don't know if you heard of it. I did what I believe to be the fastest time ever in Rematch Biatch. It was something like 2 minutes 27. I was disqualified because I had some coriander seeds in a glass. I think it was a stitch up. There was a glass behind me. I picked up a garnish glass. Anyway, my caipirinha had coriander in it, so it didn't count. But the time was there. The drinks were solid, wash lines were solid. Why I care so much about that is because the company I used to work for was a company called Matchbar Group. And Matchbar Group at the time in London operated a venue called Milk and Honey. And in Milk and Honey and the place before that, so I arrived in London in 2004, late 2003, and I managed to very quickly, because the company focused on education and I loved learning. So you become a head bartender just by learning. You don't need to be good. Your drinks don't need to taste no good. It's not what matters. In that company, you need to be able to have knowledge, and you need to represent it fast and accurate. So you have tests every month, and you do well in the tests, you become a senior bartender. If you do better, you become a head bartender. And if you do better, you become the bar manager. So I was very lucky that I became bar manager after about a year. They moved me to the place called Milk and Honey, where I was a head bartender. It's a now defunct bar. Sadly, it doesn't exist anymore. But it was a really important bar at the time, and that's where I was serving classic cocktails in a fast way. Probably not as sloppy as this, but they were served fast. I didn't like it. It finished at 3 a.m. You know, the customers leave at 3. We go home at 5 when the light is bright. In summer, it was not that much fun. I lived half an hour away. It was a long way home. And so I decided to move to San Francisco illegally. We had no visa. Me and my ex at the time, we moved to San Francisco looking for work. And we got very lucky because of the whole Milk and Honey pedigree that there was someone who's ex-Milk and Honey who has a place called La Mozza Osteria in LA. And a bar called The Varnish, a guy called Eric Alperin, which I don't know if the bar is still there, but he was the consultant on this project. And the project was in San Francisco, and it was called Locanda. It was a Roman concept, and there I was challenged with an Amaro selection. I'm just giving you all this context so then the Amaro thing makes sense. So I end up in San Francisco in an Amaro place. I know jack shit about Amaro. I speak Italian, helpful, really helpful, but not helpful that I didn't know about Amaro. So I took an analytical approach. I grew a graph with about 120 Amaros on it, analyzing them by how bitter they are and if they're flavors. So that was on this axis. And then on this axis, I did like, are the flavors more bright red fruit, or are they more orchard, are they more citrusy, or do they go into something more really like herbal? You know, you can analyze all Amaros that way, which we did. And then we had an Amaro flight. The San Francisco is crazy, and I think they're very forward-thinking. They did farm-to-table food 25 years before anyone else in the world. That's a truth. They probably, in the world of cocktails, also were ahead, and that was challenging for me. I was really out of my depth. At Milk and Honey, I didn't learn how to make seasonal drinks, you know. I was bar backing in this bar, right, because I didn't have my papers in order, and it was illegal, and so I was bar backing for the first 2 months. If you choose limes or lemons in San Francisco, the color is so dramatically different. Honestly, guys, it's another level because it's farmed right there, like half an hour away. So the color of the lime is like just bright, bright green, and the color. So for me, it was like, wow, we're getting to work with seasonal produce that's really, really special here. We choose à la minute in the end, instead of like choosing beforehand. In my own bar now, we choose beforehand. It's what it is. It's just faster. But seeing in San Francisco how people use produce was really game-changing for me. And getting to incorporate that in, I was never good at making, I think, seasonal cocktails. That's why in my own business, I have, people that are really good at it, like Matteo, like Arjuna, like Michele. I don't know how to use a rotavap. Honestly, I don't know how to use a backpack. I've never used them. I appreciate the flavors they give, but I don't understand how to produce them. But yeah, that's the history part. I also I've written down in a place called Happiness Forget. I think it's pertinent because Happiness Forget, at the time, that was before I opened, so I moved back from San Francisco. I did 2 years there, did a wine harvest and coffee harvest and another project in Latin America. And I moved back to London in 2012, worked a year in Happiness Forgets because I tried to raise money to have a pop-up about wine. And Happiness Forgets was my last job as an employee. Well, I'm an employee of my own business too, but as a bartender. It's my last job as a bartender, I guess. Before I moved into the incredibly exciting and boring world of running a business. I realized that very quickly. When you open your own place, you're no longer just like there in the service of others. You need to look after your team, which at the time, was only 5 people, but now my team across the places is about 60, 70 people. Now the sole owner of these places, which means I'm ultimately responsible for everything, good and bad, in that place, which is, it can be a bit stressful, but it's okay. But yeah, last job was Happiness Forget. Next slide. I found this place, which is the place we're talking about. So I have some notes, but they're not here anymore. Gary, do you know how to restore the notes? I'm so sorry. This place here is right down the road from the place I showed you earlier. It was always there. It was the place that I originally wanted because it's a beautiful corner location. And as you can see, it doesn't have a neighbor upstairs. No neighbor upstairs. You'd be surprised, there's neighbors behind, and they don't want us to be open any later than 10 p.m., which is why it's an aperitivo bar now. But this place, I was looking at it, and I always wanted it, but I didn't have a license, right? In London, I don't know how it is in Germany, but in London you need a liquor license and you need to apply for it, and the chances are you're not going to get it. And if you don't get it, you don't have a business, or you might have a different business, which we talk about in a second. I found this place last October, which was simultaneous with my final realization that my 500 square meters restaurant in Old Street called Fair, that I had to close it. There's a picture of it later. I had to close it with 500,000 pounds of debt, so that's 650,000 euros. It's a lot of money. I think 600,000, I think. It's a lot of money. And it's debt that I couldn't offload to investors because I was arrogant enough to think that I can just take a bank loan. And yeah, I failed. Not I, but the pandemic, I guess. So we had to get rid of it. We had to bankrupt it. So we opened this place simultaneously, and that informed a lot of the decisions whilst closing the other place, which, as Karina mentioned in her talk yesterday, if you were lucky enough to go, closing a place is much more challenging than opening a place. It's fun, but it's challenging. Then so in the process of, that's how we found the place. Someone invested money, really good for us, it wasn't us. Someone invested money building an avocado shop in it. Really cool. Means he had shelves, means there was electricity, means they spent some money on the tiling. Look how nice this is. That's like 100 grand they spent. So I was like, fuck me, let's get this place. And I looked on Instagram who owns it. Because they weren't open anymore. They closed after 6 months because selling avocados for £4.50 in Hackney is tough. So lucky for us. And I contacted LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a useful platform sometimes. I found the owner of the business on LinkedIn, which is really cool. And I just kept writing. And after a month, which is really, really fast in England, I signed a lease, 15 years in what's called Inside the Act, which means they cannot kick you out. So now, finally, 10 years into business, I have a place that I feel is mine, even though it's not mine, right? I don't own the building, but at least they can't kick me out. It's a really big fear in England. Like, my lease on at Wilde, it finishes in 4.5 years. I don't know what's going to happen after the 4.5. The landlord might go, actually, fuck this, I'm going to redevelop, you know. So at least that can't happen here. Next picture. We decided, is the next picture there? We decided that not having any money, going through a bankruptcy, the optics of opening a new place, whilst you're potentially not going to pay suppliers of the old place, didn't happen. We paid all the suppliers in the end. We were like, what can we do cheaply to open this place that doesn't have a license? We opened a wine shop. It was really ghetto, badly done, but people bought wine. And because I already imported the wine, I didn't need to pay for the stock. I didn't need to pay. Anything you see in there is kind of the staff that we had on payroll already from the other sides, and there was no risk in doing this whilst we were waiting for our license. It was also 1st of December at the time, or like mid-November. You don't really want to open a bar into your busiest period because the service is not going to be perfect. The team needs to learn to work together. And we didn't have a license anyway, so we opened a wine shop with coffee. And then that kind of informed why, you know, it's not like I could go to the concept stage maybe and speak to you about why we opened an aperitivo bar and how important aperitivo is. But the fact is, you can have all that vision and then not find a venue that's pitch perfect for it. We got really lucky. We found a pitch perfect venue, and then we molded the idea of aperitivo around it. I think if you want to do it in reverse, it's not going to work, and I'll tell you in a second why. That's it. Here we are. That's the new place. We called it Equal Parts because that wasn't the logo in the beginning neither. But we called it Equal Parts because we wanted it to be based around the idea of equal parts of coffee and wine, and also because honestly, we didn't know what the place was going to fucking be. We had no idea. And Equal Parts at least doesn't give it like an idea, right? If I called the place Amaro, I'm going to have to serve Amaro. That's what I have to do. You know, so we really chose a name that's like going to allow me to mold around it. We registered the Instagram, I bought the trademark. But it allowed us to do anything we want. It could be coffee and pastry, it could be a wine shop, it could be wine shop and coffee. We'll see. If we're lucky, it's going to be a cocktail bar. Turns out it's now an Amaro, Aperitivo, coffee shop, art space, records, everything. It's cool. Next slide. This is why the Aperitivo location site is really, really important. So in this photo, as you can see, there's a lot of light. It's a corner location, meaning you have light from two corners. That's no good if your corner is northeast facing. I have a place that's northeast facing, and honestly, fuck it, there's no light. The whole day is just dark. This place is the opposite. You have light from midday or 11 in the morning the whole day long, and that really helps. Then the problem is you got to control the light, which we talk about after, because no one is going to want to go to a bar that looks like this at 8 p.m. So you got to control it. Meaning a corner site is you have two doors. It gives you two opportunities to get customers, which getting customers is quite a tricky thing if you're trying to motivate. Our license is finished at 10 p.m. at the moment. We're trying to have a midnight. If I asked all of you in this room, you all work in the bar industry, have you ever worked in a bar that closes at 10 p.m.? Like, no? Anyone? You have once? In London. There you go. So it's honestly, it's a quite unusual thing, right? People are so used to bars being a late thing, and big challenge. So I was like, fuck, even if we get the license, how are we going to operate this? How can we excite people to come in at 3 p.m., at 4 p.m.? Honestly, most people come at 4. 3 o'clock is kind of rarer, but 4 is a good thing. So you need to be in a location that has footfall at 4 p.m. Like, it would be very naive to think, and it has happened to me, that you can attract people just because you have Instagram or because you have a PR agency or because You have brands who work with you. It's like 4 p.m. to motivate anyone to go anywhere, they kind of got to live around there or be on the way home. So we are very lucky to be in a neighborhood that's right next to my wine bar. Really helps. People walk past the wine bar, they want to come in, and we say, we're not open yet, but you can go down the road. So we have a bit of a siphoning off. It's quite helpful. And there's people walking on the street. It's not a shopping street, but it's a street where people walk, which is helpful. Then that's how it looks on the inside. Hang on, next slide. I've lost it again. Might be you again, Kari, I'm so sorry. On the inside, as you can see, we've done a bit of zoning. I think that's really important because today's purpose of the talk, I really wanted to tell you like what it takes to open a space that functions at 4 p.m. at midday. I find this really challenging. Germany is different. Switzerland, where I'm from, is even more different. But in England, good luck having a business that makes money in the daytime and money in the evening. It's really hard to get into people's heads that a space can be both things. So what we decided to do is we draw inspiration from stuff that insinuates that there's coffee or there's a bar. So we chose a bar top that's made from zinc. It's the most expensive thing we built. It's a custom bar top made from a metal that really feels nicely. And it's very Parisian in vibe. So it kind of gives you that bar vibe and feel. So we chose that. Also, if you look inside, it kind of looks like a pub. I don't know how many of you have been to a pub, but from the outside, the place looks like a pub anyway. So we tried to make it feel as comfortable, because the only places in England that are busy all day is pubs. It's not cocktail bars, and it's not coffee shops, because they finish at 3 p.m. So we were like, let's make people feel comfortable somehow, and that's how we did it. I'm not from England, but I feel that feels comfortable enough to feel like an old pub inside. And then we did also the blinds, which you can see. The blinds were quite expensive, but they're needed to adapt the light. You know, if you have sunshine in people's face, not smart. And also, there's a point that like right now, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 p.m., where you feel, we really want to start to feel cozy inside, because there's people on dates or whatever. And then the blinds are quite helpful because you can not just control how much light there is, but the quality of the light. And I love blinds. It's like my favorite thing. Sorry, I'm quite excited about blinds. Then, that's how it looks in the evening. You can kind of see just trying to see how I get into here. Sorry about that, guys. I'll freestyle. I think that's Matteo here on the left. And people walk in, the first thing they see is the bartender. I think that's... Okay, so we don't have a doorman. That's all in my notes, which I need to... Sorry. Is there a way to leave it the way that they stay and I can flip? I think being greeted by a bartender instead of a doorman, or instead of like, it's really something, the hello and goodbye is like the most important part for me in a bar. And we built it deliberately so that people have to come in past where the front station of the bar is. So that's quite important. And I kind of think it forces the bartenders as well. Like what you see here is Matteo not on dispense. The dispense station is on his right. But it forces the bartender to be really aware, to look up. One thing I hate in bars personally as a customer is like to go in and not be acknowledged. You don't want to be over-acknowledged, but you want to be acknowledged, just like a hello or a menu, or this forces you, because the door is right there. You have to be alert. And it also forces them to be aware with the record player, which is right behind. It's not the easiest station, because normally that's like the babe station. You get to hang out, you get to chat, you get to do your thing. No, but it's true. Like when I worked in Happiness Forgets, we called it babe station, and all I had to do was serve 8 customers all night, help a little bit with dispense, and that's it. Life is good. Here, you have to say hello to everyone, say, okay, we're going to find you a seat, You have to change the records every 25 minutes whenever the record is finished. It's quite a lot of work. Then, next. This is the place that I closed, a big restaurant, and I put it in here because it's my transition into maybe the financial side of it, which I want to talk about a little bit. So it's like you can understand why Aperitivo, why especially we chose to do what we've done. This place I've built with money that wasn't mine. I borrowed a lot of money from my own family, from my own sister, not good, and from the bank. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot of money to repay. And so when I opened the new place, I was like, please, I cannot fuck this up. I cannot borrow more money. It was a given. I cannot borrow more money. I have to repay a lot of money. I have to repay 20,000 a month. It's a lot of money between the three businesses. So it's the pressure on the debt is quite high for the next 3 years or 2.5. I also witnessed my life partner, Karina, go through 3 closures in the 3 first years of our relationship. That was quite hard. You know, she talked about that yesterday. And I was like, you know, I'm done. Like, I'm turning 40 this summer. It needs to make sense. And so I wanted to open a business that makes financial sense and it's not going to cost me too much to build. And a business that I'm proud of as well. It needs to be meaningful to me. Otherwise, the stress is not worth it. So why did we choose low alcohol beverages or Amaro beverages? Or we chose all of that. Oh, it's the next picture, I think. No, it's still on this one. We chose all of that because the margins are quite good if you're choosing unknown products, such as like Amaro, Sherry, we can say Campari even. It's an affordable product, right? You look at all of these bitters, Amari, Sherry, unused ingredients that are less popular to be the main staging ingredient, they don't cost that much. So it's quite interesting to build drinks around it. The next thing is, if you're choosing a low alcohol drink, or people perceive it as low alcohol, the word aperitivo insinuates that it's low alcohol, ironically enough, because it's not like a Negroni is the lightest beverage out there, but you know, it has vermouth in it, right? So people say, okay, it's lighter than, you know, a bourbon sour, true story, but it's still quite heavy. So we chose low alcohol because people drink more. By more, I mean the drink, they finish it quite fast. Thank you very much, €11, next drink. We find that, honestly, guys, it's shocking. Like, in this place, my spend per head was £28, including service charge. In my new bar, our head spend is also like about 28 to 32 pounds. I don't need any chefs. We decided to have no chefs. You can see in this place, there's a kitchen on the left. That's just one floor. There was a second floor with a kitchen with 5 chefs in it. There was a reason we went bankrupt. There was a big terrace. It was an area where no more people wanted to go to after COVID. It was a business area. So we decided all of this stuff, not having a chef. We just serve crisps, nuts, olives, you know, normal bar food, like a pub. And that's all like a pub before the gastro pub, like just normal comfort food like that. And we make good margins on the coffee, like, you know, coffee's 80-something% GP, so your cost sits at 18 to 22. It's pretty good, and that's doing specialty coffee. Like, we care about the coffee we do. But if you're smart with your cup size, 8 ounce instead of, or 6 ounce instead of 8, you know, you don't need to serve a Starbucks coffee. In England, people are accepting enough to serve a smaller coffee, better made, than wanting to have a large vanilla latte or something. So we're very lucky that we have customers that are quite cosmopolitan and they want to drink specialty coffee. To the next point. That's the team, in which case Arjuna here and Michele, and I need to get my slide. So I want to talk a little bit about one of the most challenging bits of our business, which is probably the team, the staffing. It's also the best bit. But we went through COVID, as you guys did. Luckily, or I mean, unluckily for us, luckily for you, it meant England went through another crisis called Brexit, right? So we made the very stupid decision before COVID to leave the European Union. And then COVID happened and people were like, fuck living here, I'm not earning any money, I'm going to go home to my family because I can live for free, or I'm going to go home to, you know, wherever. Most people went back to Europe. Now, because of COVID and because of Brexit, you know, you guys, Germans can't just come to work in England anymore. You need to apply for a visa, and it's more complicated than getting citizenship in the US. That's all I can tell you. It's frustrating. So we are now an island in the middle of Europe without access, like no access to the European labor market, especially to the people that I really appreciate, which are people who understand gastronomy, because let's be very frank, England has not been very known for its service. And that's historically linked, because they had servants to do service. There was no such thing as a hospitality industry. And now it is. I think London is one of the most gastronomically exciting cities in the world, but that's very recent. That's the last 8 to 15 years. Before that, people like my parents, they still joke about how shit England is, and the food. But I think it's a city to be, London is a city to be proud of. So, staffing, how do you attract staff if you don't have staff? Okay, you can pay more. Good luck. Energy crisis, rent hikes, inflation at 16%. But we are offering more money than we should. It's tough. We have a 22% average increase in wages last year in my team. It's quite high. The business didn't just magically take 22% more, so we have to find the money. What else can you do? You can offer flexible hours, right? Flexible hours meaning, hey, you know what? You can come and work for me, and in my place, you can make coffee in the daytime, earn the same money as you would working until 11 p.m. cleaning up the bar, right? That's like another way. You have to be open 7 days a week. I think that's fairly normal for you guys in Germany, but if you go to other countries, namely France, that's not a normal paradigm. But 7 days is really important because it gives you more flexibility with holidays and you name it. And you got to respect the individuals. So if they want to have a 4-day holiday without taking holidays, namely, I want to be off Saturday, Sunday, and the next Monday, Tuesday, and I'm going to take those 4 days as my normal days off so I can have a long weekend, we respect that. By we, I mean Matteo. He does the rota. But it's something that's quite important to us if you want to attract good people. Because honestly, there's not that many good people. It's a fight for good staff in London. And yeah, I guess aspiring for a work-life balance, which we talk about in a second, but it's also quite important. Here we go. Community is a word that I personally struggle with, I guess, because it's always used in like the wrong way. In English language, people use it as like, there is the black community, there's the Asian community. They always use it about minorities. They never say the white community. It's interesting about the word. We've still chosen that word because it's the only word that also describes what we're trying to achieve, which is building, like connecting people together. And how do we do that? I mean, I should probably, have you read what it says there? It's, she happens to be a friend, Dawn Davis, but at the same time, it was really just beautiful what she wrote. I don't know if you can read it. Should I read it to you? You can read it? It was really quite special that she noticed something in the business that had been part of building that kind of happened accidentally, if I'm honest. We just put chessboard there. We have a few games there that Karina brought me another game from Colombia called Hongos, amazing game. But we just want to have a safe space with a flat hierarchy where people get to, so in our team, we don't really have like a GM, for example, like in a big restaurant. There's no GM, there's no HGM, there's no restaurant manager, there's no head bartender as such. The team hierarchy is really flat, which probably helps the whole community element. We are lucky to receive a lot of regulars because coffee is a commodity product that come in all day. So people want to hang out. They come in alone. A lot of them come in alone. And that's really quite interesting. We are in this one industry that's not a therapy room, right? But we're in a commercial space, taking money from people, listening to them about their dreams, hopes, and fears. We are there just to listen to them and to engage with them. By bartenders, I mean. There's a safe barrier, it's a safe space, there's a bar in between, and people come in to connect with each other. In this case, this chap didn't know the other people he was playing chess with, and the chess acted as like a medium to connect them. And that I found is really beautiful. You're in a bar that's just normally known to do like cocktails in, and you name it, or have shots, or have amazing amaro, but then at the same time, it's kind of cool to have games in there. We also, I think we prioritize guest experience over product, and don't be offended when I say that. Product is hugely important to us. You're tasting some of the drinks that we serve. But guest experience for us is everything. So we really want to be there for the guest, to make sure that they leave happier or feeling better than they have felt when they came in. That's like mega important. Because if you know, guys, there's also something quite fascinating. If you close at 10 p.m., people don't leave fucked up, right? The longer the night goes, the more fucked up they get. If you're closing a bar at 1 p.m., you might remember how you got home. If you get home at 3 p.m., you might not remember how you got home. So there's a very different element to the hospitality that you're providing, depending on the time of the day. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's a theory. So at 9 p.m., people are hugely aware, they're sharp, they've only had 1 or 2 drinks, and the kind of conversations you have with them are a bit different than at midnight. So I think that's quite important. There's something else. So we work on an inside-out approach. This is a bit like business schooly, but it's something I really believe in. If you compare like how you work in your business, you can work either the guest is everything, right? I just said guest experience is everything. That's true. But I also want to say that if you focus maybe on your team first, or maybe on yourself first, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, right? But like, you got to look after yourself first, because otherwise you have a non-sustainable business. Then you look after your team. Then you look after the suppliers, meaning you pay them not only on time, but you are like respectful with their delivery times and nice. And then the guests. And I think that's how you can build a culture. We found, at least at Sager & Wilde, this is a new place and we're still building this culture, and it's every day an uphill struggle. It's not straightforward. But I think that's something really important, is to build a culture of where you're working from the inside out. That also means, I have another inside out thing. A lot of places, when they talk about what they do, they talk a lot about the what. Like, I'll give you a good example. It's like technology companies like Dell or Microsoft. They talk a lot about what. How many gigahertz, how many megabyte. Then they talk a little bit about, how, a little bit. We packed into this processor XYZ. There's a new casing, new aluminum, blah, blah, new Intel technology. And then, only at the very end, 1% of their attention goes to the why. The why, for me, is everything. So for me, the way I see my business is the why has to be super strong, and you have to communicate the why. Then you do a little bit of how we did it, and what it is shouldn't really matter that much, because the why should be stronger. That's the way I see it. Now, feel free to ask questions to that, because it's quite, but that's the way I see it. If there's no why, you shouldn't bother doing it. We all have better things to do. Like, we're not trying to save people's lives. There needs to be a strong why to why we want to open a bar in a recessive environment such as Great Britain in 2023. There needs to be a bit more than just, oh yeah, I can make a lot of money, because that's not the case. So, next slide. We talk about the equal parts of equal parts. Currently, subject to change, it might be different in 2024. But right now, because when we get a later license, which I really want, till 11 p.m., it will be amazing. It will be maybe even a bit more cocktails. But right now, the space is equal parts of, cocktails, of coffee, of vinyl, and art. That's the stuff that's in there. Now, next slide. We do that by having a back bar with quite a lot of Amaro, bitters, low alcohol ingredients, modifiers. We use a lot of modifiers as a base product, like I mentioned earlier. We also use a lot of sherry, port, Madeira, like unused ingredients that are low alcohol. That's the whole focus, is unknown ingredients. So when you read the menu, the idea is that there's a lot of stuff on there that you don't know. You guys will know it because you're bartenders, but the normal customer will not know it. So the cocktail side of it. This is one, is it Mago? No, this one? It's not the one you're showing right now, or is it? No. It's the Spritz. Aperitivo, perfetto. That one is the Mago, which is one of Matteo's drink, where he has blood orange in it, and we use Campari in it. And it's just a long, mega refreshing drink, which, to be honest, doesn't pack that much alcohol, so people drink it quite quickly. It also looks like a huge drink. It's not. Like, that glass is really clever with the long ice. It's quite fascinating if you just pour the water in it without the ice. You get like 90 ml before dilution, I think. It's not a massive drink. So I don't know in ounces, but you know, like in 10 years ago, everyone was serving large glassware. It's the same with food, and I don't know how Germany is, but for me, less is more sometimes. Like, you don't need a huge drink. I personally want to have more different drinks, and I'm happy paying slightly more for that experience than having 2 huge whiskey sours with 60 ml base product. It's different regulations. In England, we are free to use whatever amount of alcohol we want. There's no legal stipulation. You need to put it on the menu, but there's no stipulation that you need to use 50 ml of 40% strong liquor for it to be a cocktail. And I think that's really quite freeing. It's nice. In wine, we don't have that freedom. In wine, it needs to be a glass. It's 125 ml at a minimum of 10.5% alcohol. That's the definition of wine. So the equal parts element is, I had this obsession of creating drinks where you don't think too much about the spec as such, because you can really go down a rabbit hole. A close friend of mine at the time, former business partner, he always told me, oh, it takes me at least 10 times until I have the drink right. And I'm like, that sounds crazy to me. Like, sometimes you make a drink and it's right there and it's so simple and it's spot on. And I think sometimes as bartenders, we can all get lost down in the exploration of our own creativity as opposed to finding beauty when it's there. And that's not one of them. That drink got developed together. It's a collaborative product. But sometimes you stumble on something that's just so good the first time round. Doesn't mean you don't change it. But the idea of having equal parts in a cocktail, this one is not equal parts, but we have a section on the menu that is equal measures. So, you know, 25 of this, 25 of that, 25 of that, like a Negroni. We didn't serve you one of these today, but examples would be, we have a drink on the menu that has quina lillet in it with sherry and a bit of saline solution, but the other two are equal parts. You had it yesterday. There is one that we have with Amaro. We use Donna Selvatica, but you could use Braulio, and then you use Toki, Japanese whiskey, just them two together. There's another one we've done, which is Macva. You know, it's like a really old school wine from the Jura region. It's not far from you guys in France. And equal parts of that, Calvados, but unaged, like a very young Calvados, not too oaky. And we use Montenegro Amaro because it makes everything taste better in that case. And yeah, so the idea of equal parts exploration, if any of you have ideas for equal parts drinks they came up with, send them to me. I'll put it on the menu, put your name next to it. I don't mind. But like, I really love equal parts drinks. That's just one part of the menu. The other part is what the team do, you know, like the wrap packing, the taking a seasonal ingredient such as topinambur, maybe, Jerusalem artichoke. So currently we have a Negroni on the menu, which is done by infusing the Campari with topinambur, which they've toasted beforehand. There's lots of seasonal stuff in there. Matteo makes, and Arjuna, the team, they make this drink with a tomato consomme, sherry, and olive oil vodka. I don't actually know, how do you make the olive oil vodka thing? Fat washed. See, there you go. I don't know how to fat wash, but it tastes amazing. So they do this amazing fat wash vodka, and it ends up tasting, we call the drink Floor. It's our best-selling drink. Super light. It's sherry and tomato consomme with a salt rim. I don't have a picture of it, but it's a really good drink.
Michael?
Yes, we need to rush.
Just a short interruption. I really love listening to you.
It's 40 minutes already gone.
It's yeah, they're kind of flown away. Like, I would say we'll slightly come to an end because maybe there are some questions for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay, but just go on like 5 minutes and then it's all right.
Right.
Is that okay? It's good.
I can blitz. You should just see some pictures because they're pretty. That's the coffee we do. Oh,
We love
I'll do it that way.
Yeah, we love.
That's kind of the coffee we serve. So there's a bit of latte art, specialty coffee. You know the score. It's really fucking good coffee. That's the art element, currently by Katja. So we rotate the art. We work with a gallery called Rotate Gallery. Look them up. It's really cool. All emerging artists. 60% of the profits, not profits, 60% of everything goes to the artist. that's double of what they normally get. It's amazing. And I love having the art there. It just brings different people in. And it's, again, a community element. That's the record side of it, where you can see there's like 2 records on the right that really are sort of idiosyncratic for the music that we have there. There's a bit of cumbia. We focus on a lot of like Latin American music because we love it. It's like the vibe that we love, just what we like. And also, sorry, I had lots of important notes about the records, guys, but like they're not just there because it's trendy. They're there because I believe there's like something really nice listening to a whole album instead of having a playlist. The sound quality. I don't need to lecture you. You all know that vinyl potentially has an uncompressed, richer sound, something really beautiful. And I think a bar, honestly, guys, it's equal parts music, light, staff, service, cocktails. Like, it's all important. It's not just the cocktails. And for me, music, really important. Do we sometimes have no records playing for 2-3 minutes whilst we're making a drink? Yes, it can happen. But also it's a really beautiful break in between the next thing. So I really quite like that. I'm going to end with this. It's the future. You can read that graph, not read it, but Ikigai is a really interesting concept or idea. Like I said earlier, all of this, me opening an Amaro bar, an Aperitivo bar, me serving beautiful cocktails, potentially, I really love them. You guys can come and visit and try them out, but none of it has a purpose if we don't have our own purpose. Now, if you ask me, Michael, what do you want to have? I'm turning 40 this summer. I can tell you by my next birthday, 10-year mark. So I've had 10 years of running my own business. It was a nightmare, pandemic, financial distress. I still don't own a house. It's still a struggle. For me, the real future would be to get rid of a few things, like to consolidate, maybe just run this bar, because it runs kind of itself, and it makes me really happy that it's there. To have my wine bar, because we can sell the wine that we import and connect with the community on the wine level, and to import wine, and to grow our destilado business in a way where we have more meaning to the producers that we work with in Mexico. That would be the, and maybe more work-life balance, I guess. But that's an important question to leave you with, I think, because all cool to show you what we're up to right now. Right now we're doing equal parts. Hopefully it's here to stay. Like, please come and check it out. It might not be here around forever. You never know in England, honestly. Like, shit is wild in England with up and down. 3 prime ministers last year. That's us. Come and check us out. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'm going to. It's okay. First of all, I'm going to be there in July and check it out for sure. And lovely to have you on stage. It's kind of a little Zen situation with you, like really relaxed. Is that also like Zen situation in your bar as well, or is everybody so chilled? Like, I mean, I would work for you, to be honest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's kind of really, and you're completely into everything you're talking about. Even if you're talking about the artwork, which is which is placed in your bar, the music, everything's kind of really whole concept and really thoughtful minds over years. Not only about doing drinks and selling wines. Perfect, to be honest.
But that's because if you start importing, it's changed everything for me. I'm now, how do I say this? Our industry, and I mean the bar industry as such, we are sometimes a bit disconnected from the product that we serve. And then it was really humbling for me to stumble into the wine industry as a novice and to find a new home for the last 10 years. Now I'm back with cocktails. But it's like to find that new home where you get to connect with producers, people that make it. It's like a game changer. Because all of a sudden you're there somewhere in the south of Sicily, 800 meters up on Mount Etna, and you're connecting with someone about their life, about their stories. And then it will be kind of wrong, in my opinion, to just go back to work and not care about that approach with your own team or with your own customers. Also, maybe, I guess, becoming a supplier myself, having lost a few customers over the last 2 years that went bankrupt because the way it is, not getting paid, it's changed my mind on paying on time, on long-term sustainability of business. I would just love if we're all, as an industry, more respectful with everyone that we work with. That means suppliers, staff, customers. Not just like the drink, honestly, guys, the drink is just the canvas for us to maybe be happier during the whole time on our planet and to express our creativity. But I think the real meaning is by looking at the drink as a connector. That's what wine is as well. Honestly, guys, wine doesn't matter. Like, shouldn't cost the money it costs, right? But it has to. We're sharing a bottle of wine together. It costs £80 on a restaurant menu. The real purpose of that wine is to connect us. End of. And maybe connect us with the vineyard. That's all we're here to do. It's not like, we can talk about it tastes like, orange blossom, and that's how it was made. New oak, old oak, punch down, but it doesn't matter. Sorry.
No, that's totally fine. Anyone questions?
I love questions.
Me too. That's why I have one. What is the price level in your bar? Even you can honest,
spicy,
really spicy question,
So we have
because you try to give people a good time, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not the place where you can sell wine for a fortune. Like, what is do you have a limitation where you say, okay, this is a good situation for us?
It's weird. So I think we decided to have a section on the menu, which we changed this. It's still called EP, the first one, no? The Aperitivo section. We're serving highballs where we use a single modifier such as Fernet Hunter. It could be Campari. It could be, what's one that we use? Suze. We do a Suze and pink grapefruit soda. Super simple. You build it in no time. We charge £9. Now, all the money people in this room will say, well, Mike, £9 is a fuck ton of money for a beer of Suze and a pink grapefruit soda. That's one of the points, right? But also you need to have a drink on the menu for £9. I think it's really important. In England, normally people now start at £11. We don't want to, and then we have non-alcoholic options that need to be mindful. We have a beer on the menu. The beer is a brand new thing that we work with. It's a rice lager where all the money made from the brewery goes towards one-on-one therapy, mental health, for hospitality. Like, meaning our staff get access to one-to-one therapy for free. Pretty amazing. If a session is 85 quid, saves you 3-4 grand a year, if you need to see a therapist. So it's really cool. Just by serving beer. And doesn't cost me any extra. It's really interesting. Like, these initiatives are out there. But yeah, no, the money question, Sven, is the most expensive drink is 15, I think. And you know what's funny? It flies. Like, it's really weird. People are happy for a mezcal margarita to pay. It's all a thing about trend, right? But I think if people want to pay for something and you serve it the right way, because honestly, guys, England is so expensive right now. You go to a restaurant, the main courses are £35. Between 28 to 35. That's between 35 and 40 euros for a main course. It's quite a lot of money. So the idea of the bar is that you can come in, have some nuts. It's not the healthiest, but you get to hang out in a space without having to spend more than £25. That's the idea. And that's why I believe in bars. Honestly, my vision on restaurants has been broken. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't believe in restaurants. I still have one. But the struggle is real. Like, how do you maintain food systems where you serve organic produce, meaningful food, if people don't have any money to spend on a restaurant and if the electricity bill is ×3? So we try with the cocktails. The cool thing is you can still offer a space of conviviality where everyone hangs out, where everyone lets their hair down, gets to meet people, and leaves happier than they came in, because that's the whole purpose. And you get to do that for not much money, and you get to do it whilst running a viable business. That's the other beautiful thing. I believe bars have long-term value. It's really interesting. Restaurants, we need to rethink. Maybe, I don't know, guys, I'm not speaking for Germany, but in England, yes.
But this is a really good quote on a bar symposium, to be honest. So, thanks a lot, Michael, sharing time with us.
Thank you.